What's going on, everyone? Today we're here with Officer Pedro Serrano. Now, he's a New York City police officer, and he reached out to us. He wanted to get his voice out and let everyone know what's going on out there in the area of policing. So, Officer Serrano, thank you for joining us on the show today.
Happy to be here.
All right, Officer Serrano. So, we want to know, just straight up, corruption in policing. I've saw interviews with you before, maybe about a year or two ago, that you and many other officers were speaking on a panel about corruption in New York City Police Department. But can you speak about that since you've done that interview? Has it gotten better? Has it gotten worse? What's the issue in NYPD?
Well, what I think what happened in the police department is they will never admit to what happened, and their main goal is to make money. It's the police department makes about $900 million a year on summonses, arrests, to basically that's the amount of money that they make towards for the city, and I think that's the driving force. That's one of the driving forces, money. Obviously, that some of the higher ups in the police department have racist tendencies, and most of their decision making might come from that. But for what I think it's the problem, the root of the police department is all about money. It's summons and arrests, and at that time, stop Black and Hispanics, people of color, and make money for the city. That to me is the number one root to why they do what they do and why they don't stop. And they will never change their ways. They will just make it seem, they'll explain it to you, they'll placate you. When I say you, I'm talking about the public, and they'll just change the wording. A long time ago, it was quota. Then it became a goal, your productive goal. Now it's a precinct condition, and those code words are code words for summons and arrests, and make the police department money on the backs of people of color. And then intertwine is when you get all those shootings, and police officers get themselves into situations where someone might end up dead, or there might be a little bit of abuse of force, or whatever the situation might be. But I think the root of evil for the police department is money. And then with that, obviously with the racism.
Okay, let's speak about the racism. You say racist tendencies earlier.
Yes.
What are, in your opinion, what are the tendencies? Because for me, it's definitely the straight racism, but what are the tendencies? Can you describe that?
Well, let me just start off by saying that when we put on the uniform, we're all blue. We're all police officers. And just like any other family, you have different types of family members. You might have that racist cop, or that couple of racist cops that just don't like people of color. Then you get the other people, the other white cops that will allow you to be around them because you're not that bad. And then there are those people that are on the fence. They don't really care what color you are, but they still think they're better than you. And so when I say tendencies, I know that outright racism, I just feel is extreme. And I don't think most of the white officers are like that. I just think that they were raised a certain way, and because of the way they were raised, they're acting in that manner. If you hang out with all your friends and your mother and your father and your parents, and they teach you how to be a certain way, then when you come to the police department, you're just basically acting upon what you learned. And now you come to the city, and you start noticing that these people are not like you. They don't have your tendencies. So then there's a disagreement somewhere inside you, and that's where you would start acting upon it. Now, when you get power, then things get a little dicey. Now you start taking those tendencies and forcing the people that you are policing to act the way you think it's right. So that's why I say tendencies. I know a lot of white officers that are, in my opinion, and this is again all my opinion, is that they're not racist, but they do have these tendencies they've learned, and then they think that we have to act that way just because they're policing us. And then the hiring practice, of course, and where it was majority white police officers, so they basically dictated what they thought was right, and you would have to do what they say or do it how they acted. And growing up, that's what I went through. I lived in a Italian neighborhood, predominantly white, and Albanian and Yugoslavian, and we couldn't walk through their neighborhoods. So I know what pure racism felt like, and this is not what, in my opinion, this is not that. There are good officers out there that are trying to do the right thing, but they get caught up with the money, the policies, and just basically the bravado. When you're around a certain type of person, it takes over. It's like a gang mentality. So that's why I say tendencies and pure racism. I've worked with some of these people, and I don't see that pure racism. For some of them I do, but majority of the white people I don't. But I do see that they think that we have to. When I say we, people of color have to act the way they think is the right way of acting, and that's where we disagree.
Well, basically what you describe, and I'm just hearing you, and I'm going to call it what it is. You see, in this society, in this dealing with racism and white supremacy, okay,
Right.
the majority of people in this society, and this has been spoken of by many people who even white themselves, who deal with social justice, a lot of them believe that the police are there to keep black people, especially, in line. So you talk about they may be on the fence, they may not be really that way, but they get involved with a job, and then they kind of like have this, I guess, a peer pressure that you need to act on code with racism and white supremacy. So they start acting that way themselves, or the pack mentality that you spoke about. Well, I'm not really that way, but I'm gonna start acting that way because I'm in a big crowd. That particular situation, I don't care who you are, if you are responding in that manner based on the person's skin color or religion or whatever, you are a bigot. I don't care if you're on the fence by yourself or what.
I agree.
And that
Again,
translates.
like I said before, I agree with most of the things you say. There's just a small variation that I might not be as extreme, but I do predominantly agree.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. You stated extreme. That's a pretty loaded term. What is extreme? Because I'm responding from the guise of being victims of the system of racism and white supremacy. But tell me what is extreme.
Well, if we're going to talk extreme, I'm going to talk about slavery back in the days. That's what I'm talking about. Extreme, where just you being white, you're 100% better than everyone else. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's that extreme. I just think it's again, I call it tendencies because there are pieces there, because there are people that let them into your house. And I know your argument because I've seen the other stuff before, but it just, in my opinion, the extreme where they're going to burn crosses in front of my house and trying to hunt me down and shoot me. I have to sit in the back of the bus. I have to. I can't eat in certain restaurants. I don't see that. I do see camaraderie. I see some sort of family, but I do believe they draw a line that when it comes to when you're not in uniform, there definitely is us versus them. And if you're a person of color, you're definitely them. It's almost automatic that you are a criminal, a bad person, or you're up to no good just because of your color. That is definitely something that's out there. Now, with my with coworkers, if there is extreme racism in there, I don't see it to my face. What I do see, the racism, is when they police others. When they see a person hanging out in front of the the local grocery store or bodega that we have over here, they immediately refer to them as perps, mopes, animals, monkeys, you name it. Just whatever term they could use, it's them. They're savages. And even with me in the car, they will say it. And I would have to point to them and say, could you tell me which one's a savage and which one's not? And then they like snap back into reality and say, oh, okay. And they don't go any further with that. And every now and then whenever I have to check them and bring them to reality, whoever's in my vehicle or within my proximity, if they say some racist term that's over the top, then I have to check them. And that's basically what I do.
Okay, so I want to make sure so you can know exactly my points. I don't believe, and we really don't see this today. I mean, even I'm in the South. Okay, you don't see cross burnings anymore. You don't see lynchings on the trees anymore. And I don't really think most black people say that today at all, and that's not nothing I promote. But you talk about the area of slavery. Everything that we talk about has to have a historical concept, because historically, you know, the original slave patrol morphed into the municipal police department. And when you talk about calling black people criminals, that came after slavery, because we wasn't called criminals when we were enslaved. All of a sudden we were let go. We was so-called free. We was called criminal, lazy, etc. And we can go through the whole history of the convict lease program and all kinds of things that were done to re-enslave black people. But you're talking about the people in your car calling people animals, savages, monkeys. That is their version of being racist. They may not be out there with a cross, but this particular cop, this is why they say lynching by cop, because they have refined how they kill us. And even before that time period with the Klan, one of the main Klan members said that we're going to take off these robes and we're going to put on a DA uniforms as well, like suits. We're going to be judges. We're going to be police officers. And people like that, I'm not saying they're in the Klan, but they have the power to kill us and get away with it. Yes. So they're extremely dangerous for us.
Yes, and they write the rules in regards to killing you. So the police department will say that this is a good shooting and this is not a good shooting, but they will try everything in their power to make it a good shooting. So I understand your point, and again, I'm basically with you. Because there's one thing that I do have to say, and when it comes to shooting, not all shootings are bad. In my opinion, and I would like to know how you feel about this, but if you point a gun, a knife, or a bat, and you come towards a police officer, that police officer is human, and he does not want to die. And he's going to defend himself, because I know I am, no matter what color you are. So that we have to take into account. And that's why there's parts of me that don't agree with a lot of things that other people say. But one of the things is, do not point a weapon at a police officer and expect that police officer not to defend himself. That's just one of those things that stays with me very, very strong. And all the other things, when they're unarmed and you shoot them, yes, I mean, it's definitely wrong. You have to be held accountable when you shoot an unarmed civilian, but there are other variables that you have to take into play.
Right, but I want to make sure I let you know this, because this is something that I always talk about. I've never advocated that a police officer shouldn't defend himself if somebody point a gun at you. I mean, come on, that's kind of common sense. You point a gun at the cop, he's gonna shoot you.
Certain people don't see that as common. They just automatically say, "Well, why did you shoot another person of color?" And if the person is armed and coming at you, and not just a gun, bats will kill you, knives will kill you. And if you ever done, if you ever simulated certain things, you can see that a certain amount of feet with a knife can kill you, and it doesn't take an expert with a knife to kill you. So usually within 20 feet, you're deadly, and those are the things that I believe that the public has to be educated and understand that if you're stopped by the police, you should not point weapons at them in any way. And then everything else can be fought at a later date. But yeah, some people are afraid of people of color, and they, yes, a little too quick, in my opinion, with pulling the trigger. I think that some of them do, fear, people of color, and automatically jump to the gun and shoot people. I've seen a lot of videos where the white person has a knife and they tackle them, and the black person has nothing and they shoot them. I've seen it, and that's why I'm definitely I definitely say that's absolutely wrong, and that's what we're doing. It's one of the things we're doing is we try to put a stop to this, and the only way we can put a stop to this is when you get the community and the police working together, and you got to be transparent. You can't have all these alternate things that you want done. You got to be transparent, because what are we trying to do as police? We're trying to make it safe for everyone. And in order to do that, we have to work together. And too many times, the police department hides things, and they have alternate missions. And that's where the problem, that's one of the majority that the problem comes, because they want to continue to put people of color in jail for many reasons. And that's one of the problems. That's one of the if you look at the documentary and you look at what we're trying to fight for, that's the part of the racist part that we're talking about. That it's who's in jail for nonsense. It's people of color. You look at their own statistics, and CompStat is one of the things that the police department abuses. It's a great tool. So is stop and frisk. It's a great tool, but the way I describe the police department is they abuse things. Everything they touch, they abuse. They can't just use it for the good of the community. They abuse it, and they use it for their own purposes. So stop and frisk, great tool as a police officer. But what do? They made it into a number, and it went out of control, and you hurt a lot of people. The marijuana, again, a good tool. It's just out of control. A lot of police officers lie to put people in jail. So, but it mostly happens majority to people of color, and that's what we're trying to put a stop to. But the police department is so powerful; they control the district attorneys, they control lawmakers, politics, the judicial part of the system, and all across politics. They have their hands in everything, and they control everything. So it's hard to fight them. You want to take this to court? They control that aspect of it too. I do believe that, like Ferguson, we need a independent body, so we could bring this, whatever the situation is, and make people accountable and get answers, because police department cannot police themselves. It's impossible. They're way too powerful, and they keep telling lawmakers that they can. They just cannot. And if you look at the proof, it's there. There are a bunch of chiefs have been caught recently, and they've been doing this for years, of corruption. They have been doing crimes and not paying for it. They're allowed to vest out and collect a pension, and they don't pay for their crimes. They're allowed to resign and not pay for their crimes. But a person of color, if a police officer of color does anything wrong, they get fired. So the corruption is deep, and it's layered very deeply. Again, the way I describe the police department is it's like four or five different words. A lot of it is corrupt. They abuse. There's greed, and obviously the quota and the racism. So again, I could talk here for a very long time, but unfortunately, the police department is, in my opinion, corrupt, abusive, greedy, they have a quota, and they're racist. So I would, this is my point I want to get out there. We're trying to do, the NYPD 12 with other people are trying to get together and fight what's happening here. But they control too much for us to get anything done. But we're out there and we're still fighting.
Well, you definitely made the right step coming to social media, because the local media is in bed with the NYPD. You know that, right?
Yes, they control the media also.
Exactly. And everything, and I just listened to everything that you just stated, okay? And everything you stated just validates what I speak on my platform. It is a system. It is not just the NYPD. It's Houston PD. It's any LAPD, any PD you want to talk about. They have the same issues and problems, okay? So it's a whole system that's set up for this to happen. So you literally fighting a system, not just the bad people that it could be in the NYPD. Now, you stated that they want to put black people in jail, and there are reasons for that. Why?
All right. Well, you look at the Barnes Act. The Barnes Act basically is the more narcotics that a police agency puts into a system, puts them into jail, they get funding from the federal government. So basically, it's a numbers game. The more people you put in jail for narcotics or drugs, you get money. It's simple. It basically will give you a body, you'll get money. So the police department said to the city council that they were going to lower the amount of marijuana arrests. But for 1 year, it went down. The next year went right back up. Proof that they cannot police themselves. But you cannot stop that. They don't want that money to stop coming in. So that's one thing. Another thing is, and this is systemic throughout the race war that's happening right now. If you want to put X amount of people in jail, do you choose them to be white or people of color? Well, if they had a choice and they're predominantly white, well, they're not going to put their own people. They're going to put people of color. For, again, many reasons. So now you put people of color in jail for nonsense. Then whenever they go out there to get a job, they basically, you have a choice. Get the person with a criminal record or a person without. Well, if you have all these minorities in jail with criminal records, well, they're not going to get the good jobs. So I believe that the non-Black and Hispanics will get the first dibs at the good jobs. Whatever's left over will be left over to people of color. So it has to do with money, and it also has to do with who you're going to basically, if you had a choice, who it's going to be. Well, it's obvious going to be us. Regardless of your light skin, dark skin, black, Muslim, whatever the case is, we are the target. And they use a lot of different terminologies to focus on you. For instance, the police department likes to put information in databases. So every time someone gets robbed or raped or stabbed, assaulted, etc., the person who allegedly did the crime is a person of color that they described there. They use that to attack all Black people in a neighborhood. Again, we had a commander that said that the people that we should be targeting is Blacks between 14 to 21, male Blacks, in fact. And they give you a specific area to target them in. This came from Comstat, where they all got together and devised a plan and said, hey, who's doing all the crime? Black people. Okay, so we're going to target all of them Black. All that we target is going to be dedicated to putting people of color. Now, to me, a racist person can't see the difference between brown and Black. Everyone to them is, if you're not white, you are Black. So
Hold on. Repeat that statement you just said one more time.
I said, in my opinion, a racist person, when he sees a person, when he sees a black person, he sees everyone that's not him. So a person that is Hispanic, light skinned, Hispanic that's black, to him is black. And because the target is a black person, 14 to 21, then they put all their resources into targeting black people. So when for this purposes is black and brown, because in my opinion they can't tell the difference, and they want to focus all their energy on people of color. So now they're focusing all the energy on people of color, and they can't tell the difference between a good person and a bad person, regardless of their color. If you see a bunch of people hanging out in the street, automatically they're all bad. One of them is not a student. One of them is just outside hanging out. One of them might be a drug dealer. One of them might have a gun. But to them, they're all bad. And then if you look at the other side, there are people who drive in that are white, that drive in from out of state. And what I've seen is they be like, hey, guy, what are you doing here? Get out. You don't belong here. Instead of going through their car and arresting them and doing the same thing they do with people of color, they do the opposite. They just say, hey, guy, get out of here, because they're not the target. So I've seen all of that. So, and the system forces you to follow. So, yeah, and there will be police officers who have no idea what I'm talking about, because they work in a precinct where it's not as busy. So when they see something, when they hear me talk, they're like, well, that doesn't happen where I'm at. Well, you work in a different precinct. Usually, people from Brooklyn and from the Bronx and certain parts of Manhattan get this type of policing. And the commanders, it starts with the commanders. They're the ones pushing it. And if you don't follow their way of policing, and their way of policing is putting people of color in jail, then you are not a good officer. And they use code words. They call it proactive policing. So, again, you don't follow their ways of doing it, then your life gets flipped upside down. And think about if you're an officer and you have children and you have to be home because your wife works. Well, you work in a day tour. And what do? Well, if you're not following what we want you to do, targeting people of color, now we're going to send you to the midnights. Now your whole life is flipped upside down. So you have a choice, though. Go to midnights and just handle it, or do what they say. And some people just do what they say because it's easier. So, yeah, those are the people that are on the fence, that I just tend to just say, hey, if you're not going to be in the fight with me, just mind your business and let me handle my fight. But, yeah, they are pushed to behave and police a certain way. And this way of thinking comes from CompStat. And again, CompStat is a good idea. But again, they abuse it. And they use it to incarcerate people of color.
Well, everything you just saying, just like I said, once again, is the family in Brooklyn, the Bronx, Harlem, all different people is they're literally under siege from what I'm hearing from you. I mean, I'm just listening verbatim. And, I think it's very evil to say, well, that just put black people or Hispanic people in jail because we're trying to get federal funds. I mean, this is what continues the prison industrial complex here in America. We have more people locked up here in America than China, and China has billions of people there. I mean, this is utterly sad. So you said that I've done stories in the past where you have officers similar to yourself that take a stand, and officers have had their life threatened. Some officers had their families threatened or trying to run them off the road. Has anyone threatened your life?
Yes. In fact, when I first became an officer, I had good intentions. And within 6 months of me becoming an officer, they immediately told you that what you were taught in the police academy is not reality. That's not how we want you to act. And and they tell you basically this is how it's supposed to be. And some of them are some of these commanders are very bold. They'll tell you exactly what they want. They want you to downgrade felonies, and they want you to put people of color in jail. They want you to stop people of color and put it on paper and put them in a database. If you don't, then they will retaliate in many ways. So now you have to make a choice. Do I join this? Do I join the way they do things, or do I try to make a difference from within? So I try to make a difference from within, but immediately did not fit in what they thought a good police officer was. They will label you lazy. They'll label you you don't know what you're doing. You don't get it. You don't play the game. So now you don't play the game the way they want you to play it. They flip your life upside down. Your locker, they will go into it and take stuff. You'll get disciplined for minor offenses. The people who go with their program will never be touched. They'll never be disciplined for being late, for wearing a certain type of uniform, or making a mistake. The people who don't follow will be disciplined for all of that and more. And then you get to the point where if you get to the point where you fight them in court, like we've done, I testified in a stop and frisk trial against the police department and against internal affairs, who basically internal affairs is a weapon used to put whistleblowers or people like me that don't agree with what they're doing to discipline us and to control us by threatening to fire us, by threatening to hurt us, and you name it. We are the ones who get the patrol guide. Whatever is the patrol guide says you're not supposed to do, they will force it upon us and us only. So yes, they threaten me that way, and they have threatened me with letters of physical harm. They went to my locker, stole things. They have said things to my wife when in the street. You get phone calls, threats. We get, our lives get threatened, and whenever I'm with my daughter, I am heightened because I can defend myself, but my 6-year-old daughter cannot. And that's where it becomes a little bit more personal. But yes, my life has been threatened, and I've been targeted in many ways, and so have the others. And the movement is actually growing, because it's not just a couple of police officers now. I personally know of maybe 30 people of all ranks under deputy inspector that have come out and spoken against corruption, racism, etc. And yeah, our movement is growing daily.
So what can the people do? As the people listening to what you're saying, and especially the people that live in New York, and just hearing that, their sons can be targeted just because they're 14 to 21, and this is coming from the top just to target them, whether the cop agree with it or not. What could the people do?
Well, the only thing that, as of right now, and we're working on that right now, we're trying to fight back within the system. Very difficult when you control many parts of the system. So as of right now, we're using social media. I'm part of the National Latinos Association, and we are trying to fight them in court. We have several lawsuits out there. We're trying to put pressure on politicians. And as of right now, all I can say is to, if you want information, we're partnering up with Latino Association to get the word out. And we have certain people in the media that will get the word out. We have the documentary. But as of right now, the only thing we could possibly do is write letters to your politicians, especially the people in New York City. and you said it happens everywhere. In all those other places, Texas, Baltimore, Chicago, they send representatives here to the New York City Police Department to train into how can we reduce crime. And they're not really reducing crime. What they're doing is playing with the way you word crime, downgrading felonies and doing so many different things. So yeah, it looks like you have a safe city, but do you really? Also targeting people of color. They can't afford lawyers. They can't afford representation. A lot of them just plea. So you might have arrested them for the wrong reason, but they will plead because they don't have the resources to fight you. So it's easy to target people of color. They don't fight back. They don't have the money, and sometimes they don't stick together because they're more of us than they are of them in the city. Right now, they're claiming that the police department is half minority and half white. Well, when you look at the top structure, it's mostly white. And before last year, it was predominantly white. Recently, when we made a lot of these complaints, they just recently started to promote people of color. And that's one of the things that there are certain things that have changed, but it's not much. It's not enough. Because they think just having one extra Hispanic or black or chief, or what they call super chief, up in the ranks is enough. It is not enough. It's if we're half black and Hispanic, then we should have half of the representation when it comes to upper management. And we need a place where we could fix whatever problem we have quickly. We need like federal oversight so that if like an organization like our organization comes out and says, hey, this is happening to black people, we need a place where we can go, a courtroom or a panel, and say, this is our problem. We need to fix it without getting the person who's saying, hey, we have a problem, without getting him killed, without getting him sacrificing whatever lifestyle he has. They destroy whistleblowers. So my career is over with. You could just forget about it. Forget about any of the NYPD 12s moving up in any way, shape, or form. We have a sergeant, a police officer who made sergeant. He was 8th. When you take the test, they rank you. You get ranked. He was number 8, and they passed him over several times because he didn't have enough activity. Not that he was a police officer, not that he did his job bad. No, he didn't arrest, stop, and summons the people that they wanted him to. He made the streets safer, but they didn't promote him. It took a very long time for him to get promoted finally, and that was with political pressure. So there's a lot of problems, and the one thing we need a panel. Even if it's some sort of federal oversight so that we can go and say, this is the problem, this is the proof, and let's fix it. Let's not wait 5 years. Let's not wait 7 years. Our lawsuit has been stuck in political limbo for approximately 5 years already. We want to show what we have as proof, and we want to go forth so we can make some changes. But again, they're so powerful that they can postpone dates and manipulate certain people, and it's very difficult to get anything done.
Yeah, Officer Serrano, see, what are you doing today by putting it out on social media? And I tell anybody, don't go through the local media for anything, but constantly keep putting it out on social media. Tell the other officers as well, put it out on social media and let the people know that, hey, we are trying to fight against this, because they try to keep you guys hidden. The local media is not going to constantly put cameras in your face or even let you have a voice, because they work all together, with that particular system. So you're definitely doing the right step. And if you and the other officers keep putting a lot of pressure out on social media, even to get that lawsuit going, you may have it going a lot faster, because Mayor de Blasio, he needs to be involved with this as well. I mean, because this is wrong. He's the top guy in New York.
Well, our patrol guide, it's what they discipline us with. We're not allowed to mention the mayor or the police commissioner, or they will discipline us. So if he were the problem or they were the problem, we are not allowed to speak against them on paper. It's actually written. So that's why a lot of times you won't see his name brought up. You won't see the police commissioner's name brought up, because they have ways. Every time something comes out, they create a patrol guide procedure to counteract whatever we did. I recorded my commanding officer saying that we needed to stop black people, and they immediately changed the patrol guide to say that we cannot record anymore in the precinct or our supervisors. Now, why would you do that if you're not trying to hide something? If I'm stopping corruption, if I'm a police officer and I'm attempting to stop what I believe is racism and corruption, why would you change the patrol guide to say that I can't record? I cannot get proof that this is happening. Because anywhere you'll have a commander, a captain, a deputy inspector who says, I never said that. But if I come out with my record and say, yes, you did, here's the proof. That's why they changed it. So again, they control everything. So in order to speak, I can't directly speak about the mayor or the police commissioner or those people that are higher up. So as of right now, I'm not going to mention anything about them. But yeah, they have the power to fix this. But you also got to say to yourself, if you were in political power and you had $900 million coming in, would you want to give that up? So I can't answer that for anyone. But the National Latino Association, Office Associations of America, we're working on putting pressure on all aspects of politics. And it's slow, but we're working on it. I am using social media. I am using lawyers and other organizations, and I've been in contact with 100 Blacks in law enforcement. Many people, and many meetings for years. It's been 5 or 6 years that we've had nothing but meetings. The civil rights department. We've been doing a lot of things. It's just very, very slow, and I'm hoping that putting it out there constantly. Hopefully, these people in politics that have the power will come out and actually start listening. Because again, the police department, what they like to do is they like to reword things. They were sued by the NLOA before, that they have punished minorities more than they did white police officers, and they lost. And they're doing it again. So, but now they have this law that says that we can't go and get the information we need. So again, they keep changing the rules of the fight. They control everything, so it's hard to get anything done. But we're not going to stop. We're going to continue until we get what we need to do. We're going to continue until we get to wherever we have to get to. So it's not going to stop. We're going to continue. I'm honored that speaking to you, and again, you have you just got to keep doing what you're doing, because to me it's the right thing. Everyone's got their how can I say, you're put here for a reason, and you're doing good work. So keep it up. We're going to keep doing what we do over here in New York City, and hopefully we can get together and make a difference. Because if we get something done in New York City, and this is probably why they're scared, then we could do it anywhere. And if we fix the problem here, then we can go and move to other states and work on their problems also.
Yeah, and based off of everything that you said, before we, wrap up, I have one question about vehicle stops. Based off of you saying that black people in particular and also you say brown people as well, are targeted by police officers because they're forced to target them. Do you feel it's important for every person that gets pulled over and they want to search their vehicle to demand that they have to get a search warrant?
Yes. Number one is, no matter what the police officer wants, do not speak to him. If he wants your license, registration, insurance, give it to him. Do not volunteer information. Do not speak to them, because everything they say to you is designed to put you, to incarcerate you, or to summons you. That is the mentality that's going on in NYPD. So yeah, my advice to my children, to everyone, is do not talk to police officers when they stop you. Make sure you show them that you're not armed, and you turn on the lights in the car. You open the window and you speak calmly. Do not make any sudden movements, because they will use all of that as to reasons to enter your car. And if you can record everything, because a lot of police officers will lie and say that your gun, that let's say you have a gun that it's legally registered, was that you pointed it at them, or that it was they'll find it in one place and then say it was found in another. So what I'm saying is, I wouldn't trust a police officer for no reason. I wouldn't speak to them. I would immediately find out if I'm under arrest, and if I am, get a lawyer. Again, they are taught to target black people and put them in jail. They're not taught to help you. That happens in the academy. That's all fine and dandy in the academy. They teach you the right way in the academy, and it's pretty good. But as soon as you come out, commanding officer gets a hold of you, and the people under him, they teach you to incarcerate you. So I would definitely not speak to a police officer in any shape, way, or form. Do not give them information. Just give them your license, your registration, insurance. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Yes, sir. No, sir. And that is it. Keep your hands where he doesn't feel like he's threatened, and do not give him permission to search your car, whether you're guilty or not. Do not. That would be my advice to anyone out there.
All right, guys, you heard it from a NYPD officer yourself. I mean, he's giving you complete instructions. So now it's on you to act accordingly. So, Officer Serrano, I definitely want to thank you for joining us on the show today and giving us just a lot of great information, especially for the family out there in New York. I hope you guys could definitely get that case to federal court, and you keep fighting, because we need to see more officers out there trying to do the right thing.
Will do. Appreciate it. And if you want to follow on what's happening, the documentary is Crime and Punishment. It's coming out all over the U.S. Right now, it's in New Jersey. It'll be in the Bronx, hopefully. It'll be in New York City, hopefully, within the next month. That's going to be an interesting day. And also, I'm part of the National Latino Officer Association of America. You can Google them, and we're going to work on a website so that we'll keep everyone up to date on what's happening in regards to the New York City Police Department, and what we're doing to stop the racism, the corruption, and the abuse, and etc.
All right, so make sure, guys, you have a maybe a Facebook or a Twitter or something that maybe somebody can contact you on social media, because maybe they have a question for you that I didn't ask. Yes,
right now it's we have a website. We're working on another one, but as of right now, you can go to NYPD Quota on Facebook, and you will see a lot of things posted there. If you want to ask me or any of the police officers any questions, go right ahead and post it there. But right now, that is something I'm working on as we speak, to get it so that other police officers can come out if they want to speak about what's going on, because they're constantly talking. So yeah, NYPD Quota on Facebook, and you can go to Latinos, the NLOA, and we'll soon have a website up or at least a website link on there so that you can contact the NYPD 12.
That in the pinned comment, as always, all the information. Serrano, thank you for joining us on the show today. You be safe out there, and tell all the other officers that just keep up the good fight.
No, you keep up your good fight, man. You're doing good work, man. And thank you for having me.